Welcome, Color of Success podcast family. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie J. Wong. Check out my memoir, Cancel the Filter, Realities of a Psychologist, Podcaster, and Working Mother of Color, where I share my experiences in the realm of mental health, both professionally and personally. Color of Success podcast is streaming on all your favorite platforms and socials. Whether you're on the go or comfy on the sofa, you can tune in at your own comfort. As you know, we love growing discussions with our guests from our AAPI and ethnic minority communities. With so many friends and experts from different aspects of life, we love learning their stories and understanding what their success means to them. Let's get into it. Jeremiah Abraham is an award-winning marketing and public relations executive who has worked in the entertainment industry for 20 years. As founder and CEO of Tremendous Communications, he quickly established himself and the company as one of the most sought-after agencies to help major entertainment studios be more inclusive of the AAPI community in their campaigns and help spotlight AAPI talent for production to release. His overall mission is to impact the visibility of AAPIs in Hollywood, which includes his work through Tremendous, producing AAPI films and television shows, and giving back to the AAPI community through nonprofit organizations. Jeremiah has worked on many notable PR and marketing campaigns. Prior to Tremendous, he worked on films and franchises, including Harry Potter, Star Wars, Marvel, The Lord of the Rings, and Warner Brothers' Crazy Rich Asians. Through Tremendous, he has worked on A24's Everything Everywhere All at Once, Lionsgate's Joyride, Randall Park's directorial debut Shortcomings, Amazon MGM Studios' Expats, and more. He is also co-producer of breakthrough films in the AAPI community, such as Sony Pictures' Yellow Rose and Lingua Franca, which was distributed on Netflix by Ava DuVernay's Array Now. Jeremiah has also expanded his impact in entertainment to Broadway as a co-producer on the groundbreaking Tony Award-nominated musical, Here Lies Love. He currently serves on the board of directors for Filipinos Advancing Creative Education, or FACE, among other organizations aimed to uplift AAPI communities. Jeremiah, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I am so happy to interview a legend, so thank you so much.
Legend? I don't think I'm whatever you say, but I don't think so. But thank you for having me.
Well, we'll get into it because you have done amazing things in a very short time, relatively speaking, creating Tremendous and really putting yourself out there in the community. So can you talk a little bit about your experiences in your journey to eventually founding and becoming the CEO of a PR company?
Yeah, it's interesting because Tremendous was actually a long time coming, even though I didn't know it yet. So I started my first media company back in 2007, which was the first online destination for Filipino American lifestyle. So it was media company. We were doing videos, we were doing partnerships. We were doing a lot of grassroots organizing when it came to not just the Filipino community, but the AAPI community in general. But for quite some time, I had been working in Hollywood in various studio settings, various large entertainment companies, and I noticed that there was a lack of investment, I would say, in communities that are targeted, multicultural, underrepresented, or there was a lack of understanding as to how or why or who, And so there was a moment where there was I think this is one of the really big triggering moments for me where I was in a conference room with a bunch of studio execs, and they were trying to figure out how to target folks for one of the observational months for a multicultural group. But there was nobody that was part of that group in that room. I was literally the only person of color. And then they turn to me and they're like, Jeremiah, what do you think? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm not part of that community. Why are you asking me? There's a bunch of people outside that could probably advise you better. And so I think it was a lot of that where I wanted to use my expertise. I wanted to use my experience and my passion for entertainment and being entertained and knowing the value of storytelling where I don't know, like the first movie that I watched ever when I came to the United States from the Philippines was, I think it was like Superman 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I really looked up to Christopher Reeve. I was like, wow, this is really, really cool, but like he didn't look like me. So like what if it was a Filipino that I saw or an Asian or somebody that looked like me on that stage that was a superhero that helped me develop and grow as a child and like figure out what my ambitions are. And so I was really thinking about my own personal experience and how I wanted to help change and shift that self-awareness, that identity, the expectations. And again, I keep saying value because I think that is incredibly huge, but the value that is placed on a, the plethora and the diversity of folks that watch these TV shows, movies, just whatever. So that was my big thing. And so that's why Tremendous started, is because like I wanted to actually make a difference and really tell and collaborate with these companies to say, hey, like this is actually important, like let's do something about it.
Absolutely. And what a difference it would make too, because I was just watching Chow Wu perform some American pop boy band song, and I'm like, he has an amazing voice.
Yeah.
Why wasn't this around when, I was younger, so that we can look up to people that also look like us? Not to say that there wasn't talent, but, obviously I'm a huge BTS fan, so I have the pillow in the background and all that. But the messages, the difference that it feels to be seen literally on TV and to share this diversity. So, what you experience is not uncommon, right? It's really sad because people turn to the ethnic minority in the room to be the DEIB officer and like the let's spearhead every single observational month,
I was like, I
and
don't have a degree in diversity. Like, why are you
yeah,
asking me how to like ask the HR person? Like,
yeah. This is lived experience, and then it's like,
yeah.
well, you have a PhD in integrating diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. But at any rate, I think what you're saying is that you saw this need, you wanted to advance that for not only yourself but for other people as the generations come through. So what are some of the things though that you're still seeing as some of the challenges in you know spearheading this, being kind of a pioneer in PR with our communities?
Well, that's there's a lot there. I mean, I think there's a lot more spotlight and attention when it comes to different communities, but a lot of times we are treated all the same, even though we have a lot of shared experiences, shared lived trauma, shared diaspora. We still come from different backgrounds and cultures. I mean, we always say like we're not a monolith.
Right.
And so I think that's definitely where like more of the more of the work needs to be done. And don't get me wrong, there still needs to be work with like the overall general API and BIPOC representation. But like, for example, when we were, so I was a co-producer on a movie called Yellow Rose, that was directed by Diane Pragas. It starred Eva Noblezada and Lea Salonga.
Mm-hmm.
And even though the one of our stars was this like Broadway legend, Lea Salonga, Tony Award winning Disney legend,
Mm-hmm.
when it came time to try to convince studios to acquire the film, because we were an indie film that was winning all these audience awards at various festivals, I mean, tell me why a lot of the responses that we got was that this movie is too small.
Mhm.
Like, what even kind of response is that? Like, it's too small. Like, and I get what you're saying when you say it's too small. You're saying that no one's going to relate to a Filipino story in mainstream Hollywood. And so I think that also was one of the big reasons why I started Tremendous was, I wanted to make sure that that doesn't happen to us again. Um, so then, a lot of our work with the publicity on Yellow Rose then became like, okay, well, how do we convince these people who greenlight or acquire these films to say, hey, actually, this movie is really great. And so, we placed Lea Salonga in Teen Vogue. We did like our trailer drop at Entertainment Tonight, and we did all these really great things, and not just including Filipino media outlets, API media outlets, and luckily Sony Pictures had the vision and the awesome desire to really back our film, and they acquired us and released us in theaters wide. So I think that was also a big thing. And to your point, like that's where a lot of the work is to convince folks that we're not just the same Asian American identity, personality. We're not like this like model minority or like these stereotypes of being like nerdy folks or whatever. Which is why have you seen Joyride?
Yes.
Oh God, like can you
Loved
imagine?
it.
Like,
And my mom's like non-stereotypical, so I watched it with her and my husband. So
yeah.
we had a blast watching that one.
Oh man, like can you imagine like four Asian American friends who just go and have a good time? They get
Yeah.
drunk, they get high, they like have sex. And like that was so groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things because I was like, I don't want to just go watch an Asian American movie and then just feel like we're just reliving our trauma. Can't we just go and have fun?
Thank
Like,
you.
I just
Yeah.
see.
And I love the books that are coming out about history because I want,
Yeah.
our kids to understand that. And at the same time, I'm like, exactly. I really want to say like we're multidimensional. It's not just an immigration story. Like we have personalities and, I clearly have a bigger personality and I put myself out there and speak up for what's right. And like you mentioned, it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to say, why am I the only in the room or actually speaking up for this? Because you also don't want to have that reputation of being the annoying ethnic minority that keeps talking, right?
I don't care.
Yeah.
I will talk. I will talk until my voice is gone if it helps.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
we have to be demanding. We have to be annoying, or else no one's gonna listen.
Yeah. And I
Right?
think that is fantastic. So I think, trying to encourage people to do that though, like how do you think that people at the individual, the group level, et cetera, community level can really continue to mobilize and support, this diversity in storytelling?
Well, it's a couple of things. So it's resources, it's the vision and also quality, but it's also like money, right? So a lot of times, I mean, I think now our communities are really understanding what the Hollywood economy looks like.
Yeah.
Before, I mean, obviously growing up, like when you go watch a movie, you just want to go there and be entertained. You don't want to think about the money that goes behind like the Avengers or like the money that goes
Mm-hmm.
behind the Harry Potter franchise. But I mean, yes, like they're meant to be entertaining, but they're also meant for the studios to make money. That's the real story. And so I think now our community is really being educated on the importance of actually showing up when one of our films is really blowing or like we're really excited about it. Like don't just wait for a free screening. Like actually buy a ticket opening day And that's the biggest way you can help, like that's the biggest way you can vote for our stories. And so I think, and again, like for example, like with Yellow Rose, we had been waiting for a Filipino movie to come up. Like we had like the debut starring Dante Basco, which was
Yeah.
on an awesome, like, like that's where like when you think back at Filipino American cinema, like that's probably what many people think about. But there were a lot of people who like came to me and were like, hey, can we get like free tickets to like your movie? And I'm like, no, like, can you buy it?
You have that money. Come on.
And I'm
Don't
just
front.
like, and sometimes, and I was like, like I'd love to, but also we have to pay our staff, we have to pay our production folks, and we pay them because you buy a ticket. And so that's the big thing. And so I think now, like, the education that Tremendous is trying to put out there, along with our community partners like Cape and Gold House, for example, I think our community is really starting to see that. So buy a
Absolutely.
ticket.
Well, and I've been so grateful to you and your team because, I just put ourselves out there for Tiger's Apprentice, and that was my first press day. And I was just like, these people are amazingly kind. And like, just everyone that you send my way has been, recently Justinian, I'm just like, so cool. So like just
Love
so
to
down to earth.
so, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, reading his story, I was telling him like your story is juicy. Like that's the cool part about it is that it is like trying to weave together some historical aspects, but also the current. So tremendous congratulations, pun intended, on making the variety list, of up and comers. And so what did making that list, because I think as AAPI folks were like, oh, achievements, but like, what did that list really mean to you in terms of like all the work that you've done and your team has done?
Oh God, I mean, I almost cried. Like the
Yeah.
no, seriously, it's like a lot of times people just see the red carpets that we're on, or seeing the celebrities that we're hanging out with, and all the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. And like, it's there's a lot of hard work that goes behind our company and our
Yes.
project. And so and so even it's hard work that also is meant to uplift, like, folks who have been historically marginalized in like these in cinema. And so when we were recognized for the work that we've done, especially in such a huge publication like Variety, I mean, we don't do it for recognition, but it felt authentic. It felt good to know that, like every little single thing that we have done actually has been appreciated, and actually is, again, because that list was, it was up next in enter. So it was they chose 8 Asian Pacifics up next in entertainment. And I was very humbled to be amongst these huge players in the industry. And just that wording was like up next, meaning that they are expecting a lot more things from us. Not that, okay, you've done your work, bye, like, congrats.
Lifetime achievement. See
Like,
you
all
later.
right, you're done. Like, no, like they know that there's more to come from these 8 people, and hopefully, obviously, there's more than 8. But just the fact that not just our community, but the entertainment industry as a whole wants to see more from Tremendous just felt so good, considering we've only been around for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was very validating. It felt, again, it felt very authentic, and the whole team was very proud to be part of that.
I know. I really believe in serendipity, and it's like, oh, Tremendous was born when Color Success pretty much was born, and so it just like a nice intersection. You've worked on so many projects, and I can just feel the affection and the love and all the hard work you put in for A Yellow Rose. And so I imagine that might make your top list of projects that you worked on, but are there one or two other projects that you feel like, wow, this really had an impact on me? I know it's like kind of choosing your favorite child, but
Does it have to be a movie?
no, any project.
Okay. Well, I mean, like Yellow Rose is like right here. So obviously like that is oh God, I can't choose two. Okay, okay, Everything Everywhere All at Once obviously was
Yeah.
so fun to work with, and just the fact that that really like changed the whole landscape. Like it was like a Crazy Rich Asians set everything up, and then like we just kept running through the door. And so Everything Everywhere All at Once was so great to work on.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, Joyride was liberating, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, and just the fact that these studios trusted Tremendous with these huge investments in film, like that's amazing. So those two, but also Easter Sunday, I would say is another favorite, because that was the first Filipino American film that was born within a studio. Like it wasn't an indie that was acquired. It was like actually like in there that was made for that was made for general like wide theatrical release. And so when you say that there's a lot of love in our campaigns and a lot of genuine desire to make sure that we're doing it right and doing it authentically, we do that across the board. Like the love that we had for Joyride and Everything Everywhere was amazing. But with Easter Sunday, like we made sure that one, because it was such a historical film, and we told Joe Coy that we were really much behind him. We made sure that all of our like our vendors and all of our partners, somehow uplifted the local Filipino community or Filipino American community in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to redirect that studio money that we're getting for these campaigns to support like small businesses in our larger AAPI community. So just the fact that we got to do that for the Filipino community was a moment for all of us.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. And I'm gonna go on a tangent and say, I've had the pleasure of meeting Joe Coy at his show. And I did pay, Joe. So if you're ever watching this interview, I did pay. I felt so much pain in my heart when he got that reception when he was hosting, because I'm like, the things that he said, like we all experience, right? And so I was like, it just wasn't the audience that tends to go to his shows, but there was so much. And I even met him at a mall where my husband was like, hey, Joe Coy's here. He said he would wait for all of us to meet him. I'm like, that's the kind of guy he is. And I want to say this because I want to put it out there in whatever sphere, whether or not he hears this, but like, he's an amazing person. And I hope that he is doing his own healing, and he seems super resilient, but my heart just went out for him. He's not, I was like, yeah, the people really need to understand that he is a really nice, authentic guy.
Yeah. I 1000% agree with you. I mean, completely on the record, like Joe Coy is the most genuine, caring person. Like very, very, like he will say "mahal kita," which is "I love you" in Tagalog to everyone, and he means it.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I speak to him, he's always so like genuinely excited, and he is genuinely wanting to do what he can to put a spotlight on his culture, his community, and just again like be a good role model for his fans. We had the pleasure of working with him on Easter Sunday, but I personally had the pleasure of being a co-producer on a Broadway show with Joe Coy, Here Lies Love. And, he didn't have to show up to a bunch of shows, but he actually made the time to do it. He didn't have to like share that on his socials as much as he did, but he did because he genuinely felt like this was a huge trajectory for us. And so, yes, he is awesome. And when this episode comes out, I'll send it to him, and hopefully he gets to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, when that happened, I was just like, oh my goodies. Like, I just want to talk to Joe Coy on or off camera about mental health and just cheer him up, because I'm like, God, those couple interactions that I've had, I'm just like, this person doesn't deserve that. Anyways, so there goes my soapbox. But a lot of recent graduates, or even seasoned professionals want to get into the entertainment industry, particularly more and more BIPOC, AAPI community members. And so being, all the experiences that you've had, what advice would you give them in terms of breaking into the industry?
Yeah, it's weird because I had to figure that a lot out myself. I didn't know that you could reach out to people and ask, for an informational like coffee, or just, hey, can I get to know you and ask you some questions? Or I didn't know that you could reach out to these folks and see if maybe they would be your mentor, for example. And so now that we have more access to these folks who are making waves in the industry, that, whatever industry that they want to be in, and, they're very easily accessible on social, on LinkedIn, like, I would say, do what you can to learn from these people who have gone through this journey. So, and I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to figure out what we want in both our life and our career. But I actually, in my career, I found it more useful to know what I didn't want, if that makes sense. Like,
Oh, yeah.
then like, because then that helped me develop my filter of quality, right? So even if I had a job that I hated, the biggest thing that I got from that is, why did I hate that job? Was it because of the actual work? Was it the mission of the company? Was it the work culture? Was it because my boss was a jerk? Like, what was it? So then once I figured that out, then it was easier for me to navigate through like the types of things that I wanted and the types of things that I completely wanted to avoid. And so that's what I love now about leading Tremendous, is that like we can navigate where we need to navigate in order to like uplift our larger vision of representation, and not just take any project because it pays well. It has to adhere to a level of standard for us,
And
because
your
obviously,
values too.
and our values, if a project comes to us and it stars a bunch of like Asian American folks, or for example, if it's an Asian story, but it actually is full of like microaggressions, stereotypes, whatever it is, not to say that we've run into that before, but if that is the case, then we have the ability to say like, no, look, I'm sorry, like it doesn't really align, but if you are willing, we can consult for you. Like, we can help you get to where you need to be if we believe in the project. And so I think that level of decisiveness and that level of like really focused decision making has come from a lot of the things that I've gone through. So I would say I don't know if I'm like totally veering off your question, but
No.
I think as these new graduates are coming out of school and like wanting to figure out like what they want, like figure out a mentor, reach out to folks who have been there, go to community events. Like, there's a bunch of things that Kate's doing, for example. There's a bunch of like, and it's not just parties, it's like panels, it's like whatever. And then figure out then what you want and what you don't want. I think because, It's you can't just cast a wide net and hope for the best. You have to be very intentional about it.
I love that you said that because it's hard to turn off the psychologist in me. And that's exactly what I do with many of my clients is we do a lot of values work and, you know, uh, using that as a North Star to say, is this consistent with my values or is there something else that I can do? And a lot of people nowadays are in jobs that, you know, they feel like they're wasting away inside and then it manifests as mental or physical problems. And so you know, I'll also add to your wise words in that um, don't be discouraged if someone doesn't respond to you or says no, right? And I think with it could feel like a failure if you put yourself out there and, you know, some people don't respond. But there are a lot of people that are supportive.
Yeah, and like literally, like it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to like figure all that out on your own. And I will share that like it's not always been an uphill like trajectory for me. Like you know that there's this meme where it's like there's like point A and then point B and then point B is success. And some people think it's like this, but it's actually like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have been unemployed like a lot in my career. Like I've been laid off. Like I've been like I've struggled with finding a job right out of college. And so it was I had to do a lot of soul searching in terms of like what I wanted, like how I was gonna get it. And you know, I get that not a lot of folks, you know, can connect with a mentor or whatever it is. Because with me, like, you know, I at some point I casted a wide net. But you just have to do what you have to do because you don't know what skill sets you're gonna acquire from different jobs. For example, like while I was unemployed, I'd say, I don't know, I would say like 12-ish years ago, even though I had all this experience in the industry, I still had to make my like I still had to pay my rent. So I went to go work at J. Crew at the Grove. And so I think the biggest takeaway that I got from that is learning how to speak to different kinds of people. Like if they
Mm-hmm.
were nice, mean, snarky, impatient, like it helped me develop that communication skill. And now I use that every day when I speak to clients. Like it made me more comfortable and confident to speak to a wide range of people. And I never knew that I was going to get that doing customer service, and that's the biggest takeaway. And so, you know, even if you're not in your dream job, whatever you're doing now, there's a lesson to be learned there, and you know, like don't take that for granted.
Yeah, and that whole idea of like you got to do what you got to do as well, you know? And I think, like you said, the trajectory isn't grinding and then making it. There's everything in between. And so you already segued but to my next question, which was, you know, in my book, Cancel the Filter, I talk about what we put out on social media doesn't fully capture everything going on behind the scenes. And so I was just curious, you already shared a few, but are there any cancel the filter moments that you could share with people that might let them know, hey, you're normal. Like these things are a struggle and, you know, it might not show, you know, on the red carpet, but these are things that that have happened.
Look, I also have days where I'm just like, I don't want to do anything today. I just want to be lazy. Like, you know, some people don't know, like, you know, I love sitting on my couch and just binge watching like a good
Mhm.
series. Like I think I binge watched like all 20 seasons of Grey's Anatomy at some point. Like it was crazy.
That's dedication.
That
That's not
is.
just
So,
binging. That like,
yes. And so like it's okay to find those days where you just need self-care, time to yourself. And so I think again with what I said earlier, a lot of the things that people see in our work is all the glitz and glamour, red carpets, like movie screenings, like hanging out with celebrities. But you know, I was telling my staff or whoever applies to Tremendous for a job is that that is only like I would say like 5 to 10% of the job. 90% of it is like strategy, sweat. I don't know how many times we've all cried, like, like, and for me, even as an entrepreneur, and like being the leader, manager, executive, but also like HR and business development and like all these different things as a startup that you have to wear so many hats. People don't know that I stay up until like 2, 3, 4 in the morning trying to figure out what's next, or like, or trying to make sure that like we're set for the next year so I can like make sure that my employees are well taken care of. Like that, those are all the things that like people do when they start their own company that like you don't really see. I mean, a lot of founders that I speak to, like we have to console each other. Like,
Yes.
and it's not easy, but hopefully because we kind of make it look easy, I guess. I don't want to say that 100% that it helps inspire people to want to start their own thing, but if they want the real story, I'm happy to answer questions from prospective entrepreneurs. But I think, it's there's a lot of self-care that needs to happen when you're doing your own thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a great point, is that how do you self-care? You said reaching out to people and consoling each other, but there are other things that you've done that you've found helpful?
Um, I have intentionally, I'm very intentional about when I take travel. So for example, when I know that there's going to be like a 3 month like nonstop whatever it is campaign, then I'll book like a couple of days in between things. I feel like that there's like a meme where it's like my therapist is travel. So that's that, but also like just the day-to-day things. I'm trying to make more time for myself, trying to figure out, because again, it's hard to work-life balance when you're an entrepreneur and you have your own company. But now I'm just being very mindful about at least like a certain amount of time during the day to do something for myself, whether it's like meditating or like doing yoga or like just cooking. I like to cook. I feel like it's very therapeutic when you're actually like just figuring it out.
It's mindfulness.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to actually incorporate in my day to day is mindfulness, whether it's setting an intention for yourself or again, like my brain is like nonstop, like I'm always thinking about something. So I'm very, very slowly learning how to stop and meditate because that's tough. Like turning your brain
Mm-hmm.
off is tough. So I'm starting with like 5 minutes here and there, 10 minutes, and then now I'm actually up to 20 minutes of meditation every day,
It's
which
fantastic.
is an accomplishment for me. But yeah, no, I think for me, it's like trying to quiet my mind, and so I'm like then more focused about like when I actually have to turn it on.
Well, and obviously I'm biased. And so, never knock a good therapy session, with someone who you feel like you can create a safe space with. And I appreciate you sharing that because um, it's so important, even with staff, up to the actors and production crew and things like that. I mean, actors talk about all the time how they get immersed in their characters. And it's really hard to kind of come back from that and ground yourself. But that's true for anybody. So switching gears to more fun marketing things, are there any upcoming projects that we should look out for?
Yes, a couple. So we are actually working with Wong, who was recently nominated for an Academy Award for Nai Nai and Waipo. We are
Oh, I loved it. It was so
yeah,
cute.
we're supporting his new feature film called Didi, which was acquired by Focus Features at Sundance. If you haven't seen it yet, it's such a nostalgic trip, such a relatable story for everybody, not just if you're Asian or not, but I feel like just if anybody were to watch it, you'd kind of recall a lot of things from growing up in the early 2000s. And so that one comes out July 26th in theaters. So please go support that. We're also, as you mentioned, you spoke with Justinian. We're supporting Justinian Wong in his new book, The Emperor and the Endless Palace. Steamy, queer Asian story.
Spicy, people. It's spicy.
So I'm so happy that we get to support this book because, again, it's one of those things where we're showing the world a different side of us. And so, just the notion that like Asian men are like sexy and they also have gay sex and like they also like that's something like that's different. We have a bunch of other projects that I can't quite talk about, but we are one client that I will say is that we're working with Hulu on an upcoming project. So more to come on that.
I'm sure I'll learn about it later. But I know I was disappointed because I was like, oh man, I wish they did one of the screenings for Didi like in San Francisco or something, because I wish I lived in LA actually, because you guys are so gracious and invite me to these things. And but the only request I have is if you ever have a BTS related thing, like I need to be number one. I don't even care what I have to pay for it. But anyways, thank you thank you so much for spending time with us today. And you're just an amazing human being. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was such a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We would love for you to subscribe to the podcast and join our community on all our socials at colorsuccesspodcast.com. Looking forward to you checking out my memoir, Cancel the Filter, Realities of a Psychologist, Podcaster, and Working Mother of Color on Amazon and wherever books are sold. I'd love to hear your Cancel the Filter moments.